frying pan.
And into the fire. Run! Run!
Hello and welcome to another Out of the Frying Pan podcast YouTube video. It's been a few weeks since I last posted a video. Sorry about that a little bit. We did say at the beginning that this channel would be a little bit sporadic at times due to the nature of the way we work, that it's mainly an audio podcast. So I kind of do these when I have time. I find it quite hard at the moment. Got lots of work on. Lots of things going on, and just been harder to find the time to record videos. It's all about lighting and a quiet house, which sometimes means that the kids need to be out, which is a little bit harder. Recording a podcast seems to be a little bit easier to find a couple of hours in the evening, pop your headphones on, turn your microphone and the computer on and chat to someone online. It just seems to be a little bit easier than to find the right conditions to sit in front of the camera. So yeah, sorry a little bit. So today I'm going to do my first hobby vlog. I'm going to cover the first part of the year, really. So we've gone past 6 months now. It's the middle of July. I thought I'd sort of do a bit of a recap over what I've done so far this year. But I was going to start though with a little tour of the hobby room, something we did a couple of months ago. Or maybe a month ago, just sharing pictures of our hobby spaces, and quite a few of our listeners did as well. So if you did, thank you very much. It's not very long, 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 4. Just a little tour around my hobby room, where what models I've got, where I store them, and what my workspace looks like for work, etc. So we'll take you there first, and then I'll catch you on the other side for some hobby catch-up chat. So to start this first hobby vlog off, I promised I'd give you a quick scoot around of the work and hobby space. I'm quite lucky that there's no debate whether I can have a hobby space, because I do it for my job. So I know a lot of people, it's not the top priority, and that's absolutely quite right when you've got kids and other spaces to things to fit in your homes. But I am very lucky with that. So doing it as a job has pretty much secured me of a decent hobby space, because I need it for work. Very lucky. So this is on the top floor of our house. It can get a little bit warm sometimes. The area I'm standing in is sort of another third again, and we've got another sort of bookcases along the wall, and my wife's got a small desk. There have been recent talks about her not really using that space very often, and we may put the book somewhere else in the house. And if that happens, I will be able to put a gaming table up here, which would be brilliant. So, but I'm not going to complain as things stand. So I'll take you over a little bit closer to sort of both sides and talk you through what's there. So this is the working space, the desk. Underneath, it's built on 3 Kallax units, the 4 square ones. It gives me lots of quite deep, and it gives me lots of storage space. There's pretty much everything underneath there that's not on the desk, so all the stuff I don't need to grab to hand when I'm working or painting. So there's one that's got all basing materials in, one that's got all my airbrushing equipment in, one that I put sort of customer projects and things in, another one that's got all my sort of like PVA glues and those kind of other sort of bulkier bottles and stuff in as well. And then there's one that has all my camera equipment in, and so on and so on. And then the tabletop itself is just built from some old kitchen panels, or actually in my garage when we bought the house. I did order a tabletop, but it didn't arrive, partly because of COVID, I think, and partly because of very bad company, but we won't go into that. But this does the job perfectly. It's just over 6 foot long, and just over 4 foot wide the other side. So it's a really big working space, and you might not see that from the camera angle, because I'm using the kind of the zoom out function on the iPhone to record this, just because it gives me the angle to get the desk and stuff in better than my the lens on my proper camera does. So very briefly, the computer side, I have a Behringer X-Air mixer, and to the left of that is a Amazon Fire tablet that I use as the control panel for it. So it's basically designed for small gigging, really, and all your faders and knobs and all the effects are controlled via the tablet. It can be via the computer as well, but I do it via the tablet, and it records to USB, and that's what we use when we podcast. So my mic's there, and that's plugged straight in, and then the audio comes in from Dan and Sam and any guests we have on through Discord into the mixer, and that becomes a separate track. So it's good sound quality, especially my end, because my mic's going straight in and it's recording the pure audio. I've been looking at an even better solution, one that's more designed for podcasting and that can enable me to split up the tracks better. which means I'll have more control over the levels of audio for the guests and the other people rather than just mine, because it's still quite hard to do post recording. I can do it live, but I can't do stuff in edit quite as well. But that's, any of you that have just come across this and wonder what we're talking about, obviously you haven't listened to the audio podcast, which is what we're really about out of the frying pan. So I'll scoot over to the painting side. So I've got a couple of desk lamps there. They're daylight ones. These are only about £35 on Amazon. I forget the name. A few times I've nearly bought one of the sort of the £130 really nice ones, and I may still do it at some point, but these work really well for me. So below the picture is a bar, and that is designed to hang photographic backdrops on, and you can actually see some folded on top. There's the kind of the Mockery grey one I use a lot, and there's a white one as well. So they clip on top, that drops down onto the desk. And these lamps can actually be turned then to fit in from the sides, and I have one that I place on the floor that pops up in front, and that gives me the light I need to take photos. So if I did move for one of those overhead lamps, I would need to replace. I need to buy 2 side lamps to do that as well. So these do be fine. And then over to these are project boxes. I think they're called project boxes. You can get them from Hobby Zone. The M1, as you can see, I've used just to store more paints and things in. That's all pigments, oil washes, some Vallejo basing materials and some other effects. And then this is where I keep my own personal painting projects, so I can clear my desk out of the way for work but not have to put them away in the box. That's the one thing with using, sharing your workspace with your own hobby spaces. You need to be able to switch between the two quite quickly. So there are my Defenders of Helm's Deep. So I've built all the foot troops. They're all ready to go, and I'm going to paint those first so I can play a Helm's Deep game, and then I will do the rest of the army. So I'll actually, instead of painting all the mounted first and then swearing about having to paint the dismounts, I'm kind of doing it in reverse. So by the time I get around to painting the mounted side, the only models that I'll have to paint the dismounts for will be ones that don't feature in the Defenders of Rohan, Defenders of Helm's Deep list. So they're all primed, ready to go. So I just need to start cracking on with them, really. A few kind of non-go projects at the moment, just storage there. There's a built Gandalf the White, the new one, with Pippin. There's a single ent which came like that on from eBay. I've got a few more to build, and they will form part of my next proper project after the Helm's Deep theme stuff. So I've got to finish the Defenders and Isengard first, but they will be my next thing. Was going to be my Throne of Skulls army. We will see if Throne of Skulls happens. And I can't lift the lid on the M1 without moving paints out of the way, but on the top shelf there are half painted Iron Hills, the end of my Iron Hills army for now, and the bottom are lots and lots of Hunter, Orcs and Bolgs and Wargs to go with my Gundabad. As we go in and look at my paints there, so down the bottom to the left there are Scale 75, that's the complete normal range. I've got a few of the fantasy as well. They've been my go-to for a number of years, but I'm starting using more and more Vallejo as well. There's a mixture of different ranges for Vallejo there, some game air, some model colour, and even Noctura stuff down the bottom, which is absolutely fantastic. And I do have a little bit of Citadel stuff as well. I mainly use the technical stuff, so the washes, the glazes, and a lot of contrast at the moment. I'm using them for glazes. I'm using them for doing sort of slightly different things with them rather than just painting them pure, or I'm using them as a base and then highlighting on from them. So I may do some more videos on some of the interesting uses I've found for them. And then a fairly decent workspace. There's a Khazad-dûm army on the go. That's my current commission. Wet palette, mug and all the rest. Fairly clean at the moment. Might not always stay that way. Then perhaps the more fun side of the room, or at least more interesting for people watching the video. You see Smaug down in the corner, still in its box. I haven't forgotten about it. It's very much a finish off the army projects for this year before I really start that, or at least the stuff we need to play the big Helm's Deep game. As a saw people may recognise, obligatory talking calendar on the wall. Top shelves is mostly the box games and box miniatures I haven't opened yet, so it's a bit messy up there. The Pelennor box is just the Mordor Orcs left now, plus all the extras I bought. So there's probably an 800 point, maybe more, Mordor army waiting to go once I've got through these other projects at the moment. In the Hobbit box there's a bit more mix and match for stuff from different eras, but definitely haven't painted. I've done all the Goblin Town, but I haven't painted up the the dwarves yet. This Rohan Stronghold box is empty now as well, from well, at least empty of Rohan stuff. It's now become storage for a Minas Tirith army and a Moria army. There's bits on the top, so there's a fair few more army projects waiting to go. And then a brief look down this end. This is non-SPG stuff, so I'll keep it brief, but there's lots of old editions of books and things there, and Horus Heresy books there. I've actually been selling off the hardback black books. I've had them for a number of years, and they've been replacing them with these softback ones, which aren't so nice for a collector. But I'm not really playing the game at the moment, and I've released some equity, so to speak. Some of those are out of print now, and they go for quite good prices. And I think I was able to replace the books with the softback versions and spend a lot of money on new SPG stuff. So it's been covering my costs. Heresy Army, some Adeptus Titanicus, and then down the bottom we have a few books that don't fit on the bookshelves behind. So there's some historical novels, there's lots of Sharp, you can even see a Sharp action figure there. Dragonlance books over there, and most White Dwarfs from 100 onwards, a few from before. I've missed some of the weekly ones, but there's quite a good resource there. At some point I'm going to have to go through and have a good read through of all of the SPG stuff that I didn't really look back at the time. Then we'll bring you over to some of the more interesting stuff. So top shelf there is mostly all SPG through the ages, shall we call it. I've been on a bit of a mission to purchase the old editions that I didn't have and all the old supplements. There's a couple more in the post, but once they've arrived, I think the only things I'm missing are the 3 collector's guides and the 3 supplements that were in White Dwarfs. But other than that, I think I've got them all. And we've got Battlegrounds of Middle-earth there, some of the movie books, which are absolutely fantastic, especially the wetter ones, really, really amazing for reference for painting or just to flick through if you're fans of the films. Can't recommend them enough if you haven't already got them. And then the films, they don't get to sit with the other DVDs. They're kept safely up in here. My copies of the novels and things. The obligatory Tolkien fans shelf of knickknacks and toys, some Lego and bits and bobs there. And then we'll bring you over to the ones with some of the armies and things on. So top shelf is knickknacks and memories and things. I haven't been to many SPG events, but there's a couple of things up there, stuff from Geno 52 podcast events and mementos as well. And then the second shelf down is some display models or competition models over the years, dating back about 8 or 9 years now, some of them. So I haven't done many things, but there's a couple there. And then on to some of the armies. I'll see if I can get in a little bit closer to some of these. So here's my Survivors of Lake Town. I will do a proper army showcase of these at some point. It might be a nice thing to do under proper lighting. This mini display board is kind of quite handy to use as a small tray when you're carrying it around between events. So I built this for a couple of events I went to, and it was displays the army really nicely. It was really quick and easy to do. It's a oil painter's board, so it's to use like a canvas, so to speak. But it was just thick enough to build that stuff on it, and it worked out quite well. I think they're A3, but that's my Survivors in Lake Town. If I glide over here, I actually built this second one for Army of Thrall to go on. But currently sitting on there is the start of my Gundabadi style army. As I said, I've already got the Hunter Orcs, so the Hunter Orcs are not painted yet, but start of that alliance. But it's good fun to paint. I had to have an excuse to paint one of these. Such an awesome model. Loads of fun doing that. And then I moved down a level, and that was my display board I took to Throne of Skulls last year. So it's got my full army of Thrall on, and the Iron Hills that I have painted. They were the allied contingent. They could still be a small army by themselves, but I do need to finish off a warband of spears and 3 more crossbows. At some point I might pick up the chariot, but it's not high on my list at the moment. But that's that army. I'll try and go in a little bit closer. As I say, I'm using my phone rather than video camera today, so a proper showcase at some point might be better. So this may be blurry, but gives people a bit of an idea what's going on. But I had lots of fun building the display board. Talked about it a lot in the Throne of Skulls show. I can't remember which episode number that is, but it was a little while back. There were tea lights in it, which lit up, especially behind the entrance to Moria, behind the picture there. Unfortunately, sort of by the time I got to the event, the batteries on the tea lights stopped working, and it was remote controlled. But they were all stuck in, and I've got no access to change them, so they didn't work by the time I got to the event, which was a bit frustrating because I hadn't really been using them that much before. And then the last shelf with models on for now has been sort of stuff I've been working on. Aside from that, so Army of Dead was a real speed paint that was done in. I say both speed paints on the bottom, but Army of Dead was a real quick speed paint just to get them done because I had them. And I just knew it'd be easy with the colour scheme we needed. And we've got the Goblin Town, which I sort of documented as a speed paint on social media, if you want to go back and check that. But I did that very, very quickly as well, using some Zenithal airbrushing, but with colour and contrast paints and things. I won't talk about that now, but I will do a bit of a showcase and a bit of a reminder on some of those things. Again, the Goblin King there was a bit of a speed paint, but using the airbrush first, I managed to get quite a decent effect for a relatively quick paint job. And Gollum was done in 45 minutes. Again, I've talked about on the show as a bit of a challenge. So I'll cover that again at some point, but they were good fun. And then some of the other things I've done this year, I suppose this is a hobby vlog about things I've done this year. I've painted the whole Goblin Town army definitely this year. Done my battle company bit by bit, and those of you that follow the social media will have seen those pop up one by one. Loads of fun doing those. First parts of the Defenders of Helm's Deep and my Rohan armies. Aldor and Halath there. The lovely Forge Rod sculpts. Loads of fun doing those. The spur of the moment random eBay bargain, or relatively bargain, I picked up the 9 and painted those in a few hours. Really easy to do. Cheeky invisible Bilbo, I think, while watching another battle streams. I don't normally put unpainted miniatures on these shells, but it's just to keep them safe, really. And I want to be doing it soon, but you can see Shelob and Sam and Frodo there. And that will definitely be doing that. I imagine with Quest of the Ring Bearer coming out soon that there'll be some kind of use to me. And the Fellowship, which is my other thing I want to be painting this year, really. I'll sit down and talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but the things I really like to paint this year, what my goals are, but they're out to remind me not to forget to do them, really. With the Quest of the Ring Bearer, they should be really good as well. So that's the plan. So that's enough of the whistle-stop tour of the room, I think. So hopefully that was interesting maybe to some of you. I'm back here talking to you again. So how's the year gone so far? I think the start of the year with lots of plans, lots of different army plans. I speed painted my Goblin Town army. I really wanted to get an evil army done for the hobby bingo, and that was part of a fun project to do it quickly. So I painted an army very, very quickly after not doing too much. I think the first 2 or 3 months were spent building terrain for the Flotsam and Jetsam event, which was postponed because of COVID. At the moment, it's still down to go ahead in October. We will see how that goes ahead. Maybe I'll do a separate video about that. And then after that, I was got a little bit freer to start doing some of my own hobby. And one of the big goals was to complete Helm's Deep, which you'll have seen on the previous video. So that's all done, ready for a big game. And that kind of upped the priority of the next army that I would do. I've got lots of things lined up. You've seen from the tour of the hobby room, there's loads of armies ready to go. It's sitting in boxes, but it really kind of upped the ante. And the plan was to get my Defenders of Helm's Deep force painted and ready to play, and then also build some Isengard as well, so that I could contribute some of the models towards the attacking force to make sure we had a really big game. So I think I've planned a good 1700 point defenders, so we're going to need sort of over 2,000, comfortably over 2,000 point attackers, maybe more. We may have a system where we sort of respawn some of the Isengarders, but we will see how that goes. And we're going to do a future podcast, I think, an audio podcast, where we talk about the different Helm's Deep battle reports scenarios that have been released over the years and the different supplements, and then talk about which one we're going to use or how we're going to amalgamate the few to get them together. But that'll be a future thing. So as you've already seen, I'm going to put some pictures up now, some stills. I've built my Defenders of Helm's Deep force. I've built all the foot guys basically for the Rohan army that I'm building and painting as well. So at the moment all the mounts are sitting in a box, and once I've painted this lot I will do the mounts separately, so I will actually have a fully working Rohan army afterwards without the feel the need to do all the dismounts, which is usually quite painful. So they're all built, ready to go. I've painted Aldor and Halath, which you would have seen on the hobby tour. I may put a little still up here now as well, so you can see them again. So that's the scheme I'm going for. So I've worked out the scheme. It's just finding time to start chipping away at it, and it is just 83, 84 models, something like that. So that's going to be a long way to go. That's including the Galadrim. Then after that, I've got what I think will be 700 or 800 points of Isengard. I've got a lot of scouts and things as well, which I won't be able to use for Helm's Deep. If I'm following the attackers of Helm's Deep, that's not the name of it, I know, Legendary Legion. So I'll start with the normal stuff first. Lots of generic captains, battering ram and troll. I've got a lot of stuff sitting in boxes ready to go, so that will be what I plan to do after that. Then I will probably finish off the mounted Rohan actually, and then I'll take a bit of a breather. I think I've got the Fellowship you saw on the room tour. I really want to get those painted, including Shelob and Sam as well. So those I might treat myself in between finishing parts of the big slog towards the big Helm's Deep game. I may kind of treat myself to doing the odd single model, and I may even make some of those into painting videos, because I plan on doing them relatively quickly. At least the Fellowship, maybe 2-3 hour paint jobs, the same as I did for the Battle Company, which is something else that I've painted this year. So Battle Company took me a little while, but I did spread over a few weeks. I did 2 to 3 hour paint jobs on each of them. You saw that on the room tour, and again I'll pop a little image up on the screen now. Really good fun to paint, a nice tabletop standard to more than just basic, but and not something that's too refined. You can still see the brush strokes and things, but they were loads of fun to do. And then I picked up the 9. I picked up it was an eBay auction. They looked a fairly reasonable price. I hadn't seen them all in one go. It was just like a one-click, yeah, let's do it. And I knew with Crest of the Ringbearer coming up that I was going to need them for some scenarios. I do need to get some mounted ones now as well. And when they arrived, I thought, I'll just get them primed when I was priming some work actually. And after I primed them, I thought, well, I've got grey in my airbrush. I might as well just give them the first grey highlight, because I was using that colour for some work I was doing. That only took me a few minutes as well, and at that point I thought this really isn't going to take too long to finish them, so I did a fairly quick speed paint on them as well, and they were done in a few hours. So I've done quite a lot really this year. So I've painted the whole Goblin Town army, including a golem which was speed painted as well. I've painted the Battle Company. I've painted the 9. So I think I'm over 100 models painted personally. Loads more because of work, but 100 models painted personally, and I'll easily get to 200 or 300 probably by the end of the year if I paint everything that I'm planning to. After I've finished the Rohan and the Isengard and the Fellowship, which will happen this year, hopefully at the end of the year I'll have time to do what I plan to do for Throne of Skulls. I have no idea whether that's going to go ahead end of November, again beginning of December now. It's very hard to tell what Games Workshop's going to do in terms of running big events, whether we'll be able to do it anyway. Obviously there's no events running at the moment at all, and then if events are suddenly allowed towards the tail end of the year, will they go with the normal planned ones, or will they kind of go with the bigger systems? I would imagine if they could only do 2 events, say, crammed in at the end of the year, that you're going to pick a big 40k GT maybe, or do some kind of open day rather than the Middle Earth Throne of Skulls. It'll be very sad if it doesn't happen, but yeah, we will see. But I'm planning on doing Fangorn for that anyway, and I have a display board idea based on the Flotsam and Jetsam sort of scene in the film where the Merry and Pippin are smoking and drinking and all the food's floating around in the water. I think it'd be a really cool idea to do for a display board, and I can't wait to sort of get working on the Ents. I've got them all sitting there in boxes to go, so that would be my kind of stretch goal to complete for the end of the year. If Throne of Skulls is happening, I will try and make sure that that happens, even if it means that other things don't quite get done, like the fellowship, etc. Any more models on top of that are going to be bonus. That's the goals for 2020, really, is to finish the stuff I need to play the Big Helm's Deep game, have the fellowship done, have Shelob done, and then try and start or finish, if Throne of Gods is happening, my Fangorn army. But I'll leave you there because I've been rambling probably for a good 6 or 7 minutes there at the end of the video. And I don't know how interesting that is, especially when you've already heard those things on the podcast. So take care, and we'll catch you soon.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Run! Run!